Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are talking about the Wheel of Time. So more specifically, we're going to talk about the Eye of the World, and this is going to be the first official video in my journey through the Wheel of Time video series, which is a kind of big project that I wanted to make, kind of chronicling my journey through reading all of the books of the Wheel of Time, so that I would have something to talk about, so I would know what to talk about when the TV show airs next year. I probably won't finish reading the Wheel of Time by the time the TV show airs, but that's okay. I just want to get through at least the first 6 books by then, and hopefully become a part of the Wheel of Time community, be able to interact with people and have good conversations with them. And that's really the point of this video series and this channel in general. So hopefully you guys stick around and are interested to hear what I have to say about my reading of the Wheel of Time. So today we're going to talk about Eye of the World. Eye of the World is written by Robert Jordan, obviously, and published by Tor Fantasy right there. And usually when I do a review, I do try to talk about a premise, and I will keep it as general as I possibly can. I don't want to do any spoilery conversations at the moment. I'm going to keep this as spoiler-free as possible so that anyone can watch this. And then I'll make a second discussion video that should air sometime next week on Wednesday or Friday, not sure yet, where I talk about everything that I want to talk about in detail, which is mostly going to be things about the plot and the world building. So hope you guys watch that video as well. Now let's just jump into this now. The premise of the Eye of the World is a very general, like, farm kids going on an adventure to save the world from magical end of days type of story. It's a very quest-oriented story. There's a situation that occurs, and then that leads to them leaving, and then they have to do something to save the world. That's really the plot line of just about every epic fantasy, but hopefully you guys understand that this is directly talking about the Eye of the World. So now we're going to evaluate the plot, the characters, and the world building. And I say evaluate, but I really mean share my opinion on it. So let's just jump into that as well. So the plot line here was really good. I was really enjoying my read through the Wheel of Time, or through the Eye of the World. This is my second and a half reading of it. I read or listened to half of the audiobook once. And this is my second full read through. And I realized that it's a rather slow going story originally. Like it takes a while to get fast, if that makes sense. There's a slow buildup, and even though things are happening relatively quickly within the story, the pacing of the writing really makes it feel kind of slow going. And I don't really hate that. I think it's good and it's interesting, but it does lead to some minor, like, pacing issues, I guess. Like, there's times when I was reading and I was like, okay, I was super interested in this 5 pages ago. I am not interested in it right now, and I'm going to put it down and get back to it when I get back to it. And usually I had to push through to build enough momentum to get interested in the story again. And that's happened to me a few times when I've tried to read this. It didn't happen with the audiobook listening, and that was mostly because I was doing that in short bursts. But reading this in one go is kind of difficult because you do get that sort of like, okay, this is boring right now, I'm going to come back to it later kind of feeling. So, yeah, the basic general plot points are a prologue, which really feels kind of prophetic, or what's it called, mythological. Like, it's the last little moments of the creation story of the current world, and it's really interesting. And I really like how there's that to really pull you in, and then you go with that slower build up kind of story from the actual book. So the prologue, and then you travel to the village, then you go home, and then there has to be an escape. And that escape then leads to traveling to the edge of the world, more or less. And from there, you get that whole big standoff thing, which was enjoyable, although a bit confusing in this first volume. And I do understand that that's because Robert Jordan was not sure where his story was going. So he kind of did something that later doesn't really feel like the rest of the story. But I think I understood what was happening. But I'll leave it at that. I don't want to really do anything spoilery for that one. So yeah, overall, very enjoyable. Some pacing issues. And that's kind of like leads to a flow of storytelling that doesn't feel that consistent. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Now, the characters are probably my favorite part of this book. I really enjoy, one, how many of them there are, and two, the type of characters that they are. So we have two groups of characters, really. We have the Emmons Fielders, which is 5 people, 3 young men and 2 young ladies. And then we have the 3 older people that travel with them. 2 of them are related to the magic system. One of them is like a bard, kind of. So I'll break it down. So the Emmons Fielders are Rand, who is more or less the main character. I think he has 80% of the perspective in the first book. And then we have the 2 other boys, Matt Coffin. Rand's name is Rand Altor. Then we have Matt Coffin. Yeah, I think that's how you say his name. Who is like the trickster, troublemaker friend. But I'm not really sure if that's necessarily true. And then we have Perrin Aibara, who is kind of like the stoic one of the 3, the calm, collected, very slow to anger, very slow to do anything, but it's because he's really thinking about it. And I really like him. I think he's my favorite male character out of the Emmons Fielders. Well, actually, overall, I think he's my favorite male character. I really like his kind of personal struggles with like how the story develops. I think he's really interesting, and I like him a lot more than Matt, because Matt really fails to do anything important in this book besides get in trouble. And I'm sure that changes in the future. He is one of the favorite characters in the community. So I'm sure I'll get to the point where I like him. Just currently, he's very average. And so is Rand. Rand is very much like, he's not an everyman. He has individual traits that are not necessarily things that anyone can relate to. But he feels very like neutral. Like he has things that he has to do, but they're very much things of like a naive, heroic man, more so than like someone that's stupid or a trickster. So he's really like average. Perrin, though, my favorite. The 2 Emmonsfield women are Nynaeve, the older wisdom character. She's kind of like the healer of the village, as well as like the leader of the women's circle, I think. She's like in charge of the village, more or less. Or at least healing people. And I really like her character. She's really angry and like bossy, but it kind of makes sense with the fact that she's given such a position of power, even though she's only 20 years old. And the reason why she has that position of power is because she's the only one able to do it. So it makes sense that she'll develop a bossy, angry attitude, one, from the high expectations she has put on her, but because no one else will listen to her if she doesn't get bossy and angry, because everyone else that's in the village is much older than her. So it makes sense to me, and I really like her character. And I like the sort of interpersonal relationship she has with the other characters, and how she kind of goes from treating the boys in Aguain as children to realizing that, yes, they are young adults now, that they are part of the world, and that they have to have freedom to do whatever they must do. And I really like that. Now, Aguain is the 2nd female character from Emmonsfield, and she's very much average. Again, there's nothing wrong with her, but I don't like particularly like anything about her. And that's kind of like just because she doesn't do much. Like most of the things that Aguain does is like to cause the boys, or more specifically Rand, some sort of like tension, but it's not bad. It's just, there's nothing much to it, and I didn't particularly care about it. Now, the three people that are not from Emond's Field that are main characters, more or less, are Moraine, who is that older, wise wizard character. And I like that it's a woman, not a man. And I like her presence. She's always told to be a very short person, a very small, slight build. And still she has such a big presence. And I love that. I think that's super cool. Now we have Lan, who is like the sworn sword and shield of Moraine, who has a lot more of a backstory than that. But I like his stoic nature. I like how quiet and rough around the edges he is, but how he's always prepared and he's willing to do what he must in order to keep the people he needs to keep safe. And I really like his character a lot. Then we have Tom Marilyn, who is a gleeman, and a gleeman, by their name, a man that brings glee, is a type of bard / circus performer kind of thing. Mostly a storyteller, but he has a lot of other stuff that he does. And I quite like him. I think he's a good counterbalance for the Emond's Fielders between Moraine, because she pulls them a lot in certain directions. And Tom Marilyn is good at keeping them more centered and in line with what they have to do. So I like that dynamic. I also enjoy his backstory and how he is helping the Emond's Fielders because of something that happened to him when he was younger. And I quite enjoy how everyone interacts. It's really nice. I like the character building a lot. Now the world building is probably the most interesting, but the one I can say the least about because of spoilers. So I'll try to keep it insightful without spoiling too much. So I really like the gender dynamic flip. I think that's really interesting. And so I think having a book where the women are more powerful than the men is really interesting, and it's enjoyable, and it's cool that it was written by a man. And I think he would have written it differently nowadays than he did back then. So it's kind of interesting. Now, I do enjoy the male-female magic split. I think it's interesting, and it really helps make the imbalance of power a lot more dynamic, I guess. It's kind of the way I can describe it. It's really cool, and I like the fact that men can be magical. It's just they go insane if they don't, and I think that's super crazy, super interesting. I also like the whole like tree singing and the wolf thing that they have going on. Those two like secondary magic systems are interesting as well, and I do want to see them develop a lot more. And yeah, overall, stuff is cool in this book. The magic is interesting. And there's also a lot of world building related to cultures and how the people work. It's really interesting. All of these cultures feel like mishmashes of others, right? But very clear. So we see a lot of like Norse inspiration. The Wheel of Time symbol looks like a Triskelion, I think, which is a type of Norse knot design, if I remember correctly. We have this sort of like wolf berserker thing going on. We have Eastern mythology with the dragon. We have a lot of the magic seems to be like Asian inspired. I don't really want to say that. I don't know if that's correct, but you know, it deals with balance and kind of one thing for another, sort of. And you know, there's just a lot of interesting stuff. I like Andor, which seems to be kind of like England, which is interesting. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that is cool in the world building. I enjoy how much time Robert Jordan dedicates to explaining everything that he's setting around you. He takes a long time to develop stuff. So I really like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I realized I didn't really say much, and I still took 15 minutes, but well, I'm trying to keep it as spoiler free as possible. Hopefully someone listens to this and finds the Eye of the World intriguing enough to read it, that would make me really happy. And please like, comment down below, and let me know what you thought. Also, please subscribe and join me on my journey through the Wheel of Time. I would really appreciate it. The next video for the Wheel of Time, the Eye of the World discussion, should come out Wednesday or Friday. So I would appreciate it if you guys come back and watch that as well. Thank you guys very much, and I appreciate all of you being here. And yeah, see you guys later.